Hello, everybody. How's it going tonight?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another True Crime with MarvNFrank. Got a good show coming tonight. Glad to see everybody in the chat. We're waiting on Mr. Jensen to arrive. I just spoke with him a few minutes ago. He should be here within the next few minutes. So we got an hour with Mr. Jensen, so everybody try to get their questions in as quickly as possible because there's some things that we're going to cover with him before we take questions.
Hello, Joe.
He just said, send me the link.
Angela, Aussie, Becky. Joe's here tonight. Let's see here. Olivia. Yep, stay open. Keep an open mind. Let's see. Everybody's saying hi. Hello, Pam. How are you? True Crime with Shannon. Dee's here. Hello, Stacy. How are you? Ms. Light. Hello. Vanessa's here. Wanda from Missouri. My screen just jumped on me. Purdue. Oh, I think you got the wrong channel. We're not Mr. Steve and Mrs. Steve. Sierra, how you doing? CJK. Donald. Boston, how are you? Hello, Tish. Hello, Sleuth. Lakeside, how you doing? Let's see here. Jackie's here with us. Copper Horse is here. Stacy, good evening from Florida. Alexandra, good evening. Polygraph's here. Allie's here. Welcome, Allie. That's a new name that I haven't seen for a while. Andrea, nice to see you. Jason Jensen, hello. He's in the chat. Stacy Rosewood.
Yeah, he's getting ready to come in right now, guys.
Digital. Nice to see everyone tonight. We're waiting on Jason to enter in the back. Oh.
Yeah, Marv's dealing with a migraine, guys, so take it easy on her tonight, guys. Come on, Jason.
Listening in while finishing work, Rosewood says. That's a good thing to do.
I know I just saw him in the chat.
I did too. He's probably trying to get in. But
I think he's trying to go through YouTube. Still waiting on him.
I slept wrong and did something with my neck. It's very sore, and after staring at the computer all day, I got a migraine.
There he is. Good evening, Mr. Jensen.
Good
Hi,
evening.
how are you? Just call
Not
me
bad.
Jason. That's fine.
Well, got to have respect. That's what it's all about, sir. How you been?
Good. How are you?
Well, a lot of debate up in the air right now. That's why we wanted you to come on.
Right.
So we wanted to discuss some things with you, and I'm sure people in our chat got questions that you might be able to answer or give your opinion on. So, shall we get started?
Sure.
First of all, I want Mr. Jensen here to give his background as far as employment or schooling or whatever he does and things of that nature.
Sure. Hi, all. My name's Jason Jensen. I'm a private investigator. I'm a cold case expert. I'm a co-founder of the Cold Case Coalition. I've been a private investigator for 15 years, but I have a combined, from my prior law firm experience, 28 years experience doing investigations. I have a master's degree in criminal justice. I do not just private investigations, but also crime scene profiling. And because of my master's degree, I'm also a criminologist.
Oh, good. That's good to hear. Good.
Okay.
So we got some experience back there then. All right. Well, let's get this kicked off. I know that me and you talk behind the scenes and you don't know much about the Keegan Klein transcripts, but I'm sure you've heard some things that have come out of it that I wanted to ask you about.
Sure.
Since you got a law degree and I read some of your stuff and you're a defense attorney, explain to the...
No, I don't have a law degree. It's not a defense attorney. I was a paralegal, but I have a master's degree in criminal justice.
Okay. Can you explain to everybody, as far as the Keegan Klein transcripts, about how law enforcement can lie on just about everything they ask him or question him about, and why are they allowed to do that?
Well, Franks v. Delaware had really kind of paved the way for, it outlined that one of the tools in the toolbox that law enforcement can use is deception. So they don't have to be honest when dealing with a suspect. So they could say, hey, your buddy already ratted you out. We just want to know why you did it, and no conversation like that ever happened. But the suspect doesn't know. So they're just trying to get the information out of him. And, unfortunately, sometimes that does lead to false confessions. We know that, that historically in our country, there are false confessions, and
Quite
I
a
think
bit of it.
DNA
Yeah.
has already exonerated over 300 of them, in fact.
Correct. So in saying, when he says that he failed the polygraph, could he be lying about that also?
That's a possibility. They can tell him that he lied, but he can lie he can fail a polygraph anyway, because see, a lie detector doesn't really tell you that you're lying. That's a misnomer. That's just a colloquial that we use because we don't like polygrapher as an equipment name per se. So what happens is, all it does is measure your heart rate, your breathing, whether you start to perspire, your fingertips and whatnot. It's to measure physiological changes based on your human reaction to a question. So the theory is, if you're lying, your heart's going to start beating faster, or your blood pressure is going to go up, things that you have no control over because you have some kind of guilt associated with the question, guilt associated with your answer. But what really happens is, sometimes you may react that way because you're afraid of not knowing. Afraid of them not believing you. So I can be scared of an answer, and it's not because I have something to lose, but I know you're after me, and I am afraid that no matter what I answer, how I answer, you're going to accuse me of it. So I might just go, oh, that's a big question. And inside, and you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's really afraid that we just asked him the $64 question. He must be guilty. No, it's a tool. And then from that, they can then interview you further. Hey, why, when we asked you this question, why did you react this way or that way? Well, I know you don't believe me. So
Right.
that can be the explanation.
Nerves will be a lot to do with that too.
Oh, for sure.
Me in general, I know that if I was in a police station and been being interrogated or whatever, I'm going to be nervous as hell. Excuse my French, but I don't know anybody. You could be 100% innocent, but you're still going to be nervous.
Oh
no
yeah,
matter
yeah.
what.
But see, that's a baseline. If you're nervous, you're just already up here when you probably should be here. What they're measuring is all of a sudden they ask you one of these three questions, and it goes beep 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 beep. It's like, okay, why are you nervous? I told you, and we talked for 20 minutes, and you were wired the whole time. You were calm, you were settled in. I asked you questions, we built rapport. Why now? The one question that comes up, and you're having a mass panic attack. Well,
Right.
because earlier you were asking me what questions, like what my favorite color was, and
Right.
what number follows number 6, and I answered them, and I knew that they were just test questions, and there was no real threat. You just asked me if I killed Libby and Abby, and I went, shit, it started. So, go
Right.
Right.
figure.
And is that why they're not allowed in a court of law?
Right, because there are innocent explanations for why you failed it, and it's not just black and white, you're a liar, you're telling the truth.
Exactly. Now that brings to the question is that it's been brought up in the transcript that they were basically trying to get him to roll on his dad. Everybody
Oh,
knew that.
absolutely. That part I know. That part I was familiar with. They really want him, and that's why when they say, we know you didn't do it, but we believe you know who did. Well, that's so uh, typical. And it doesn't mean that they're being honest when they set that question up. What they want you to do is keep talking, and if all of a sudden they said, "We think you did it," you're going to shut up and lawyer up.
Right.
So the whole thing is they can either be saying it legitimately because they want him to reveal who did it, or they're just trying to slow walk him to the gallows in hopes that he'll
He
keep
would.
talking. He gets a little closer. He slips up. Yeah, you're right. I
Right.
didn't do it, but I do know who did it. It was Bob. And it's like, well, later on they go question Bob and come back and say, Bob didn't do it. Bob has an alibi. Why are you lying to us?
Okay.
You just
Another.
lied to us about Bob. What are you hiding?
Right.
Right. Now
So,
I saw a statement that you made. You were directing it at ISP, and I
right.
don't know if everybody in the chat has seen it, but if you would kindly try to rephrase what you said, and that about what happened to Tony Klein's phone call. Where was he at during this time? Was he
Right.
in the general location?
Right. Well, anyone that's following this case knows that there has been, some GPS data released, some on, in an affidavit of a warrant that was sought by the FBI to search Ron Logan's property in March of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that in that affidavit, the police, the FBI are saying, we know that Ron Logan was near the vicinity of the Monon High Bridge at 2:09 p.m. And it also goes on to say that his phone, he texted somebody at 7:56 p.m. And that GPS location placed him near the scene of the crime, outside of his home, behind his residence where the bodies were found. And then again, his phone places him from his GPS data near the girls about 10:16 p.m. So
Correct.
so we know that about Ron Logan. And we
Right.
know from the interview that the police had with Keegan Klein that was revealed in his interview with Barbara McDonald from HLN. Keegan told her he saw information that they showed him that GPS did not place him at the crime scene. So GPS meaning doesn't have him in Delphi, most likely still in Peru. So if what they're saying is true, that, hey, we know you're not there, but we think you know who was, then why are you going after his father? Why are you seeking, Keegan to flip on his dad, Jerry, or most people call him Tony Klein, but why
Right.
do you want him to snitch out Tony Klein? What's the GPS data for his devices show? We know from the interview that he says that day was a Monday, and that's his dad's day off, and that they were likely over at his grandparents, Tony's parents' house for dinner, but that would be later in the day, and that usually they hang out, is what Keegan said about he and his father. So if he's seriously saying my dad was with me, wouldn't the GPS data be a better source of the evidence? Because Keegan has every reason to lie.
Right.
At what point do you verify his statements with tangible evidence like GPS data, uh, third-party sources, other witnesses? If he's claiming that they were both at his grandparents' house, well, I would imagine go interview the grandparents. Did
Right.
Tony ever leave the house? Go, and we know that the FBI and ISP probably has the same capability of pulling the GPS data. Work off the data. That can't be fibbed. You can't fake where your phone was, because it objectively pings to a tower and relays your location by triangulation. So why would you need to have a son flip against his dad? And so basically the letter was saying, because we do realize that there is a leaker. That leaker is from the ISP. They love leaking information to Murder Sheet podcast. So my letter to the internet was, dear ISP leaker, what was the GPS data showing for Tony Klein's whereabout? We know where Ron Logan is, and according to the interview with Barbara McDonald, Keegan Klein was at home. So what is the information about Tony Klein? The public has the right to know. You're sharing all this other information with the public, or the public is aware of it. We really deserve to know where Tony is, because if we don't know where he is, if he's guilty of something, he's a killer at large. If his data actually clears him, you're just doing a public smear campaign, hoping that your best evidence is to have Tony be accused by his own son, and that's not your best evidence in any criminal investigation. That's just dirty pull.
What is your take on Keegan Klein's phone pinging at the North Country Club Road residence?
The what?
Keegan Klein's phone allegedly pinged at a North Country Club Road residence, which is in Peru. The residence is a relative of the Kleins. And allegedly,
it speaks for itself. If it's genuine, if he was really at a relative's house, then they went to a relative's house, but that seemed to be pretty normal for their routine.
Right. Okay. And now,
now if you're saying that road is right next to the Monon High Bridge, well, that's a red flag. Short of that, it doesn't place him near the crime scene, then he's not near the crime scene.
Yeah, that house is about 30 to 40 miles away from the Monon High Bridge. So,
right.
And that was a question a lot of people had, and I'm thinking, well, if his phone pinged there and he says he was at home, who had his phone, who cloned his phone, vice versa. You see what I'm saying?
Well, no, it's entirely possible, since it was a couple years later, that he misspoke, he misremembered. If they came back to him in a follow-up interview saying, hey, this GPS data shows you're at this address. Oh yeah, well, we must have went to my aunt's house. It's not a big deal.
Right. Just like with the Kelsey situation, people always want to down her because some of her statements have changed over the years. And I keep explaining to people, 5 years worth of information is not easy to remember, especially when you make a statement or a police statement or something of that nature. You're not going to remember word for word everything that you've said. It's not going to happen unless you're some type of genius that can retain everything that you said over many years,
Right. Well, see how memory works is when it's on like a short term, when it's something that happens like last Tuesday, you can remember by date reference because it's so fresh in your mind. Last Tuesday was the 7th. Okay, now where was I on Tuesday the 7th? But when it's months and years down the road, you remember dates based on events. That's how you remember. Oh,
Right.
it's like, oh, what happened on June 1st? Oh, that was my wedding anniversary. So you'll remember that date because it's a date that's significant, not because of, like everyone can say they remembered what they were doing on 9/11, but you can't tell me if that was a Tuesday, a Monday, a Wednesday at this point.
Right. What is your take on? It just blew my mind here. It'll come back to me, but now we can get to the Ron Logan situation here. I tend to agree with you when it comes to Ron Logan because it just doesn't add up that his phone is pinging at 2:09 on the trail. What location? I have it all in my. We did a video on Ron Logan and his phone pinging. And we even downloaded the coordinates and everything to Google Earth, and it put the exact location where he was at 2:09. Now, my question is, why didn't they tell us who he made the call to or text to at 2:09 when they clearly stated throughout the warrant that he was in contact with his cousin for alibis?
So at that moment, he was talking to his cousin.
At 2:09?
Right. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm not really.
We don't know who he was talking to because they didn't say.
Yeah.
Right. Well, they would have that information because, they would issue a subpoena or a warrant to the carrier for all that data anyway. That's how they knew his GPS location is. It was a response to whoever manages the tower nearby or whoever, his phone carrier is through.
Right. And I did learn that you don't have to have 3 cell towers to triangulate. You could use 2 cell towers to triangulate. I watched the video on it, and also the way they were getting GPS is through satellites. There's 16 satellites that hover in the atmosphere low enough to where they can triangulate with satellites, and that's how they picked up his GPS coordinates.
Well, there you go. See, so they're pulling all the stops to solve the case, and which really, let me just digress for a second. Why I think that this GPS data is so significant to prove that Ron Logan, not the Kleins, have anything to do with Abby and Libby's murder. Recently, I was on, this past year, I was on a double murder. It was the Kylan Schulte Crystal Turner murder here in Moab, Utah. Mm-hmm. And, it was out in the wilderness, a newly married couple, and they were found brutally shot dead at their campsite. And, being out in the sticks like that, up in the mountains, it's like, who did this and how are you going to prove it? So they turned to the FBI, who used their tools, their equipment, and they ended up getting information, cell tower data from the Jimmy Flats Tower, which is nearby, a couple miles away. And within that block window, they subpoenaed for all the phones that registered to that tower within a given period of time. So while the internet and all the web sleuths are going crazy trying to figure out who this guy was, because there was a conversation that they had with their friends the day before that a creeper dude really bothered them. So they're like, well, if we identify the creeper dude, we know who the murderer is. So that's one way of doing it. So if you look at the history, they must have named 20 different people who they thought fit the creeper dude. Well, ultimately, the cell tower data only corroborated one person. This couple was murdered at 11:35 a.m. on a Saturday, August 14th, 2021. Okay, so the cell tower data revealed who was there. They investigated the guy. They learned down the road that a month later he had left the area and murdered himself, committed suicide.
Right.
So, and he had informed somebody, a friend or a family, that he had recently killed 2 women in Utah. So there's a confession. There's confession evidence. There's GPS tower data. They followed the GPS data to the killer. So
Right.
bring us forward to this case. Why is the cell tower data not being used, not being relied on to pinpoint who the killer was? We know what time the girls were on the bridge. We have a Snapchat post of what Libby took of Abby. That happened at 2:07. 2:09 on the Monon High Bridge is Ron Logan, which is 2 minutes behind.
Well, you got to think about this also. We figured out that Snapchat video picture of Abby was not taken at 2:07.
No. We do not know that for sure.
Well, we
do know
believe
that the photo was taken and it was uploaded to Snapchat at 2:07.
But we don't know exactly
when the picture was taken, though.
Right. And if it was
well, what's in the background of the picture? That's what really matters then. If you don't know what time it was taken, there's going to be metadata on the photo from the phone, and there's going to be, the backdrop behind the picture will matter. So if it's the Monon High Trail or anything like that, then we know that it was just taken and posted X number of minutes or seconds later.
Mm-hmm.
But then we got the video of somebody walking up behind the girls. Everybody calls the bridge guy, but he dressed like Ron Logan. Ron Logan was just registered in that vicinity behind the girls. We know it's behind the girls because he's walking across the bridge and the girls are on this side of the bridge. So it's clear cut to me that Ron Logan is the guy that approached them and then told them to go down the hill. That down the hill is Ron Logan's property. So he's leading them to his own property. How is that hard to fathom? Why allow yourself be distracted for 5 years going after, a mirage, going after Klein and trying to get him and his father implicated in it? It doesn't have to be complicated for you to solve it. Sometimes the simplest cases are easy to solve.
Do you believe that the photo of Bridge Guy had been altered in any way, shape, or form?
No, there's no reason to imagine that. Now, I've seen video enhancements of it. I've even paid for versions of it to be enhanced. That's just to digitally, using an algorithm to add some clarification.
Okay.
But the raw footage that was released on the 15th of February is, unedited. Hasn't been manipulated.
What about the audio?
I don't have any reason to believe that was edited either.
Okay.
So when you see the FBI claim that the sound of the bridge guy is not inconsistent with Ron Logan's voice, and we can conclude the same because we've heard it. Yeah, we're all in unanimous agreement that it sounds like Ron Logan.
Could there be possibly more than one person involved?
Well, because I wasn't there is the only reason why I could say possibly. Okay. But there's no evidence to indicate anyone else was there. So you don't go looking for a second murderer if you have the one murderer and he says he was alone or refuses to talk. You just punish the one murderer.
What is your opinion on Ron Logan as a person?
Well, he's dead, for starters.
Well,
Secondly, he's definitely capable of doing what he did. There's a lot of people in America that do a murder, and you don't know why. You don't know what triggered it. You didn't even know that they're capable of doing it, but they do it. And that's why motive is not a requirement as an element to prove a homicide in a court of law. All you have to do is demonstrate that he did it, not why he did it.
Right.
So why do you think that law enforcement hasn't come out and said that Ron Logan did it?
Well, I mean, I would assume at first they had no reason to believe that he did it because they knew the guy, they talked to the guy, he's been, a member of the community for decades. He's not been held responsible for this kind of stuff before, involving younger girls, even though he has a violent history with girlfriends or wives or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes people will try to say, well, that's different. You can beat up your wife, doesn't mean you're going to beat up your kids, for instance. Hold on one second. I'm here on surveillance and my target just drove by. Bear with me.
Okay.
You can keep the chit chat going, but I got to go.
Okay.
I got to go get video real fast.
What other? Oh, somebody wanted me to ask you, what is the difference between a search warrant and an arrest warrant?
There is no difference except for because the Fourth Amendment allows there to be a search of a person, place, or thing, and things can be seized as long as it's supported by probable cause under oath or affirmation. So that means you can either search a place, search a body, search a person, you can seize items, but you can also seize an individual. So when there is a crime committed, you can look for more evidence to support your overall theory, or once you feel like you have enough, you can just arrest the subject that you feel is the guilty party. So when they had enough information to establish probable cause to search Ron Logan's property, technically speaking, they had enough probable cause they could have arrested him at that point as well.
Okay. Now there was a thing in the search warrant that another creator I was watching a couple days ago had brought to our attention. The FBI agent Robertson had clearly stated that they got a description of BG through Libby's phone. Now, we've got these sketches out here. Are these sketches bogus, or what's the situation with that, on your own opinion?
Yeah, the sketches, you have to ask yourself, what was the purpose of the sketches? Because it's bewildering to all of us professionals in the same sense, because you have video. If you pause the video, it's a photo, or you can take a screenshot of the video and it becomes a photo. So when you have a photo of your suspect or a video of your suspect, you don't need a sketch. Typically what a sketch is done is, if there's an eyewitness and there's no video or photos, you get the eyewitness to do a sketch of, have a composite sketch done of the perpetrator, so they can go look at that, or you have the public assist based on the sketch being released.
Oh yeah, he's surveilling big time.
So I have another question for you. As far as Ron Logan and the evidence that they had against him, what would make him quit? Out of your expertise, how many people actually let somebody else borrow their phone, for one, to commit a criminal act, and two, how do we correlate between if Ron Logan actually had his phone or somebody else had his phone?
Well, unless somebody tells you that they relinquished their phone to somebody, typically that's not what people do nowadays. They pretty well go to bed with their phone.
That is no lie.
So you just assume that the presumption is you did this. It's your phone. So that's your motivation at that point to say, whoa, wait a minute here. You're saying my phone was used in a crime. Well, I'll tell you straight up. Bob came to me and he said he needed to borrow my phone for a couple hours. I thought it was kind of sketchy, but I let him. Well, now your suspect became your witness, because now your witness is saying, I didn't do the crime. I gave my phone to the criminal. So if GPS data shows your phone was at the crime scene, but you're not there, well, they're going to have to vet that and figure it all out. But you may have just admitted that you're the killer if you said, I didn't do it, but I gave the phone to the killer. Well, if you can't really prove that you gave it to somebody, you just admitted, not a confession, but you just admitted you're the killer because you just did a Freudian slip saying my phone was with the killer.
Gotcha.
Well, who did you give the phone to?
Do you think there's any connection between Keegan Klein and Ron Logan?
None whatsoever. 40 miles apart. I know there's a lot of people 40 miles away from me, and I've never met any of them. So unless they can show that there's a internet friendship, a familial connection, they former co-workers, lovers, neighbors, whatever the relationship is, if they can't establish it, then it wasn't there. There's 342 million people in America. We don't know everybody. It's like, I don't know. Have you ever gone to a foreign country and someone says, "Oh, where are you from?" And you say, I say, "Oh, do you know, like John Wayne?" No, I don't know John Wayne.
Yeah, I used to live in Germany and used to get that a lot. So
it's like, what are you talking about? I don't know everybody.
That was a thing that kind of interested me, was the fact that Ron Logan, when he went to the transfer station around noon that day,
right?
He sure the hell didn't want an alibi for that, though. Even though LE knew the whole time he'd been driving the whole time, I'm pretty sure they did.
Right, right.
And then all of a sudden, when everything started to take place with the girls, he's panicking to get an alibi.
Right.
So I keep telling people, you have to have an open mind.
Right. Well, see, it's real easy for us to play Monday morning quarterback from afar and say, well, maybe this, maybe that. Well, no, you don't know Ron Logan. You don't know how he was in the community. You don't know what his behavior is. Yeah, it's possible that he was looking for a alibi for that. But if you know him, if you know his behavior and his routines, no, that's clearly not what he was doing, because he always drove. I know that from a reliable source. He always drove. Why today would you need an alibi before you were informed that there was 2 girls murdered on your property? Why today? Well,
right.
It's called to fabricate a false alibi, okay, is one of the several forms of guilty conscious evidence. So along that list is retaliating against a witness, fleeing the jurisdiction, let's see, false, giving false information, concealing evidence, destroying, which is also destroying evidence. So anytime that you're doing something to complicate the result of the case. So for instance, another piece of evidence that goes along with the guilty conscience evidence is the fact that that day when the police came by, remember, it's February, it's still cold, it still gets freezing at night. There was a gallon of cleaner on his front porch. Why would he have a gallon of cleaner on the front porch in the middle of February?
It's just like everybody says that he's 77 years old. They don't see a 77-year-old man doing this kind of crime. And I said, well, think about this. He runs a farm. He's lifting bales of hay. He's lifting feed, 50-pound bags of feed. What, a bale of hay weighs what, 50, 60, 70 pounds?
Right, right. He's got the strength. The strength is not the question. His age doesn't matter. I mean, a lot of people talk lot of hype over Biden's mental state, and Trump is just as old, if not older, and there seems to be a lot more cognitive ability, a difference between Trump and Biden, for instance. So whether you like their politics or not, just how they are able to conversate, hold a thought, not get distracted, mumble, drift off in the la la land, forget that you were doing a handshake and the like. There is a difference between 77-year-olds or 80-year-olds. You can be 96 and still be sharp as a tack, like Queen Elizabeth.
Oh yeah.
Or you could be 60, 62 and not have your faculties. You could be in a assisted living community. It doesn't really matter. People progress differently, and there are plenty of studies out there, because there's plenty of incidences where you can be geriatric and be a first-time sex offender.
Right.
And that's because as you have cognitive regress, brain damage or whatever, and then when you complicate it, exacerbate it by severe alcoholism, like Ron Logan, you got a little onset of senility and heavy alcohol abuse. It's a perfect combination of a sex offender. There's an old expression out there that says not all alcoholics are sex offenders, but all sex offenders are alcoholics. So that's one of the clues you look for sex offenders, is to see if they're consuming alcohol. That's why one of the first prohibitions when you're released from prison is you have a no alcohol clause, because alcohol is a inhibitor reducer. Okay.
Yeah.
What that means is when you're drunk or drinking, your inhibition's lower. So you may not do something when you're sober, but when you're drunk, you do it. There's an old expression back in my high school days, at 10 she's a 2, at 2 she's a 10, because you're drinking, and the further the night goes, the better looking she became. So
Yep.
Basically, you grow bigger cojones when you've been drinking.
Yeah, you're going to do something that you don't typically do. And that's why it's almost offensive when you can have a young man and a young woman, they're both drinking, they're consensually drinking, right? And then next thing you know, somebody the next morning is having regret over a consensual sexual encounter, and they're saying, well, you were given alcohol, you were raped. No. You were both led down that path. You both drank. You both had your inhibitions lowered. It wasn't that he got you drunk and raped you. You both were drinking. It was consensual every step of the way. But, oftentimes you see where they go to their bishop, and the bishop says, well, he gave you alcohol, you were raped. And next thing you know, they're running off to the police and filing charges when you were both consensual all night long.
One last question on my end. What is your professional, honest opinion on why Ron Logan did this?
Why he did it? Well, like I said, you don't have to prove motive. There's a lot of speculation out there. We don't have him around to ask, but I'll give you a couple of theories. One, I understand that the McCains were trying to purchase the property, and there was discussion about expanding the trail and stuff like that. He was dead set against that. So theoretically, if some tragedy happened on the trail, maybe no one will use it, and maybe they'll shut down the idea of expanding this, and they'll leave me and my property alone. That's one theory.
Okay.
The next theory is because of the alcohol abuse and the onset and his recent breakup with Ashley, right? That's her name?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah.
That now he's sex crazed, and he sees a couple girls and decides he's got no control and doesn't control himself, and does the deed. Kills them, strips their clothes off, has his way with them, probably object rape or something, because he doesn't want to leave DNA, whatever. like I said, it's speculation. The third possible scenario is I've heard that his ex-girlfriend resembled Abby. I haven't seen photos. I don't know. It would be a curious uh, thing to put a side by side to see. Maybe he thought it was Ashley. Maybe he thought, "Oh, you came back here, biatch. I'm gonna settle this right now." And the whole time while talking to them, he saw his ex girlfriend, not 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 Abby.
Right.
Three theories.
All right, let's get to some questions in the chat here before
Sure.
you got about 10 minutes. CJK, why don't we have to prove motive? That's basically the question.
Well, what's interesting about that is it doesn't have to be an element of the crime. They don't have to state it. They don't have to prove the motive to a jury. But oftentimes prosecutors will present the motive, right? They'll talk about the motive just because they're trying to build the story, uh, lay down the sequences, explain why it happened, so that the jury can accept, okay, there was a crime, there was a victim, there is a suspect, this suspect did it, and we know why. So they'll often talk motive to the media. There'll be a motive talk among peers and innocent onlookers and whatnot. People, investigators may even talk to family members. Why would your husband want to kill your daughter? Blah 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 blah. Right? So they'll talk motive, but you don't have to prove motive. And one of the key reasons why is because one of the main suspects, one of the main sources of the motive is dead. You can easily go talk to a burglary victim and find out who did it and why they did it. Oh, it was that SOB neighbor of mine, and he knew I had $10,000 in my safe. There, you got motive, and opportunity, and we even have an eyewitness identifying the suspect. But when your victim is dead, you can't interview them. All you can do is let the evidence talk. Have the crime scene tell you what happened. Okay, I'm looking at a crime scene. I see things in a disarray. Things are knocked over. I see that the door appears kicked in. This is a forced entry. There was a struggle. I see blood spatter here. Oh, it was cast-offs. There was a knife used. Oh, there's another one here. The body's over there, though. So this is where the first strike happened. Here's where the second, and the fight carried on through the room over there. So you can look at a crime scene and you can figure out what happened. Now, what a suspect can do to throw off that ability to read a scene is they can stage it. They can make a murder look like a suicide. They can, I'll put the gun in Billy's hand so it looks like he killed himself, right?
Have you actually got to see any documents of anything in this case besides the search warrant or anything?
Just the search warrant, just just talking about the scenario surrounding Keegan Kline. But you don't have to. We're the public. We're not the prosecutor. We don't have to see all
SMS from Plus.
We don't have to see all the evidence, right? But what we are interested in is
SMS from.
What we are interested is in justice, making sure that the right thing happens. And when you look at what evidence is publicly known, it's glaringly, obviously Ron Logan. And it's clear to me that there's a smear campaign being attempted because they can't prosecute Ron Logan. They're interested in prosecuting a live person. And like, for instance, the search of the Wabash River, to me, let's talk about that for a second. Okay?
Yes, please.
It's clear that Keegan Kline is cooperating in that regard because we do know that his defense attorney filed paperwork with the court saying, that they're postponing the hearing because there's negotiations going on. Next thing you know, there's a search going on. So, I did 13 years of criminal defense work. So let me just put myself into their shoes for a minute. That there's only really two reasons why a criminal defense will have their client talk to law enforcement in this capacity. Number one, they're trying to soften the blow of their own client's troubles by cooperating to identify another suspect, right? Or if you have evidence that's going to clear you. So that's where I think things are going, is they're saying, I'm innocent. Yeah. I threw my hard drive in the river. Go get it. But I'm telling you, the hard drive will prove I had nothing to do with it, and I wasn't communicating with people that did. So why else would he reveal that out there, right? Because he already had a chance to talk about it.
We got another question from another creator we work with. How do you think?
Hold on.
Okay.
My other party for my surveillance just drove by. This is the one I've been waiting for.
Frank, I'll be your recap.
Okay. Now, we do have a question from one of the creators that we work with. She's wanting to know, how do you think the Anthony Shots account is tied into this case?
Oh, yeah, let's talk catfishing. I've had dozens, I can't say hundreds, but it's getting up there, and especially nowadays, catfishing happens all the time, and when the economy gets worse, catfish come out like no tomorrow, because everybody's hurting for money. So even the criminals, they want money too, right?
Yep.
So here's how catfishing works. There's basically primarily two kinds of catfish. There's that person that's some kind of internet pervert that like in Keegan Kline, who wants to communicate with underage women, and his crime is collecting and possessing child pornographic materials, right? He lulls girls, underage girls, to send nudie pics to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he'll do that by catfishing. Keegan's not a particularly attractive individual. He's not going to appeal to, teenage girls. So he uses someone else's images that he thinks girls are going to be attracted to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
do you think
that's where the Anthony Shots account comes into play? Is that's not really him. He's pretending to be the guy, and how it works is
he's taken on several different personas?
Well, hold on. Before I go down that path, the other kind of catfish is the one that preys on like elderly people for profit, right? They want money. So it's either the internet pervert that wants the little girl's photos, or it's the guy that's looking for money from some poor unexpected widow. So I get a lot of the whole widow scenario all the time. It's like, oh, they met me on Match, they met me on eHarmony, and they took me for thousands of dollars and said they were going to come visit me, but never did. Well, no kidding.
Boy, he's on the job. Do you think Keegan was catfished?
No, I think Keegan was the catfish. He was communicating with underage women, well, underage girls, for photos. I hear that they claimed that he purported to have a sock fetish.
Yeah.
Well, that's code. He doesn't really have an interest in socks. What he wants you to do is he wants you to hold your feet up to the camera so he can see what's in between your feet. He's looking for upskirt shots or pajama shots of your privates. If he hasn't gotten you convinced to actually disrobe and be nude in those photos.
Right.
So for that information to come out, what the catfish does is, let's say you're the target. Okay, you're the target of my catfish operation. I'm interested in getting personal information about you, or hit you up for money or something. How that works is I will befriend a close circle of your friends. So that's where I think Libby played into this, is somebody that was actually Keegan Klein's target. Libby was one of their friends. So he befriended Libby and a half a dozen other girls. And the target that is ultimately the one that revealed, oh, did you hear what happened to Libby? He puts his foot in it by saying, oh, yeah, we were supposed to meet. And she never showed up. It's just a side conversation that when that came out, it put him smack dab in the middle of the crime when no real evidence actually puts him in the crime.
Right. It's just like when they were saying in his transcripts that he was searching DNA and all that stuff while he was in Vegas. Could they be lying to him about it?
Right, yeah. People will try and do some research to clear their own name. People will try and look up definitions and terminology and stuff like that, because if something that they don't understand, that's what people turn to Google for. Or if he's in Peru and he wants somebody to think that he's new to Delphi, he's going to look up Delphi addresses and places of interest, and he's going to insert that into the conversation. Oh, I was just at the Chevron. Oh, which one? Oh, the one on Main Street. Oh, yeah, he's just trying to make his conversation seem more realistic. It's not really because he was trying to further the plan to go meet Libby and Abby. You can drive into town and accomplish that. You don't have to Google it first. You just want to, put Delphi into your navigator on your phone, or you just drive in that direction.
Okay. Well, we're coming up on our hour time with you, Mr. Jensen, and we don't want to take no more time because it looks like you're on the job as it is.
It kind of worked out that way.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you would like to add? Or Marv, do you have any more questions?
No, he answered my questions just by talking. So,
I do that a lot. I talk too much.
Yeah, that's all right. We're glad that you were here and you talked about it. What would be the one thing that could come out that would say for you to say Ron Logan didn't do it?
Oh boy. Was for starters, if they close the case, I'm not really in a position to dispute what law enforcement does. If, for instance, Keegan Klein does confess, I'll be completely shocked. But short of them closing the case and getting a confession, you're going to sit back and it's like, yeah, O.J. Simpson was acquitted, but do we believe he didn't do it? Right?
Yeah,
honestly, I do believe he had his hand in that. That's just my opinion.
I do too.
He had a hand in that one. So, but once again, I want to thank you for coming on, Mr. Jensen. Really appreciate you. Hopefully you got some people to open their eyes and take a look around instead of being one track mind on everything. Hopefully we can get you back on here again and discuss some more when you got more time.
I'd be happy to. Yes.
Really greatly appreciate that. And I want to thank you once again from everybody in the chat. They appreciate you being here. I will get in contact with you then.
Yes, guys. Have a good night.
No problem, Mr. Jensen. Good night.
Take care.
Take care.
All right.
There he goes. There
he goes.
All right, guys. All right, let's hear it, guys. I know you guys got questions and you got remarks you want to say, which is okay, because I saw somebody made a comment earlier that everybody has their own opinion, and this is his opinion, and we wanted everybody to hear it and what his thoughts were. He's got the experience. He's got the schooling. I think this guy knows what he's talking about. He's got some credibility, people, because he wouldn't be invited. He wouldn't be invited on crime court TV, or he wouldn't be doing work with John Walsh. So he's got some credibility, guys. So you got to give him that. And I do agree with Shannon.
The PI that got his PI license, you guys. He's got education and other background training jobs. I mean, he's so much more than just a PI. It's not even funny. I hope you guys are opening your eyes and realizing that.
I just don't see him putting his reputation out there like that if he didn't have a good opinion. Anybody with his background and with everything he's done with his career, I just don't see him putting his name out there in a bad way. I just don't see it. But Shannon did come up with a comment stating that he hasn't read everything. Well, he knows what we know. I can tell you that right now. He doesn't know anything different than what we know, guys. So he has to go off what we are being told, what he sees in documents, what he sees on other podcasts, what he sees on the news, what ISP is releasing. You know, he has to go by that stuff, and this is his opinion. This is his scenario, what took place and who did it and why it happened.
And we're getting comments like, I hope he does more research on this case before he comes back. But he had information that we didn't. There was cleaning solution on Ron Logan's porch.
And you know, you guys have already heard the rumors about allegedly there was a hose that was stretched out on his property too.
Yep.
Like the scene that somebody cleaned the scene.
Yeah, this case is anything but cut and dry. I agree.
Yeah, that's it. Totally agree. Totally agree. You know, you guys might not like what he has to say, but you know, like I've been trying, and me and Marv have been trying here for a minute. You guys need to expand the horizon when it comes to these kind of cases. We don't have a definite POI. We don't. So,
right.
And my honest opinion, I'm glad that other creators might have their POI, but this is my honest opinion and nothing against them. I don't believe anybody should have a POI because we just don't know. Could this be the Keegan thing be something to distract away from Ron Logan? Of course, possibly it could be. But the question is why didn't they arrest him from the beginning? That's the only problem that I have.
Right.
They have all this information on him with his cell phone, GPS locations, and things like that, with his known battered Wyndham syndrome, his alcoholism, how he threatened people that came on his property. I mean, you guys got to take this all in consideration. I am not saying that Ron Logan is the killer. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But you have to have an open mind that this man is most likely involved some way, shape, or form, just by his phone and his alibis he was trying to create.
Okay, and in response to this, no, the solutions wouldn't remove all the residue of blood, but it would taint DNA.
Yes. Bleach taints DNA.
What are they wasting all the money for looking in the Wabash River, or do you think that's for another case? It's possible that it's for the Delphi case, but it's possible that it's also for the C-SPAM case, the pedophile case.
Right.
We don't know. But whatever it is, it's important to them, and they're spending the money to do the search.
What we need everybody to do is we need everybody to start pressuring LE. Give us more information. At the beginning, you guys were asking for the public's help on this case. You want our help? Indiana State Police, Carroll County Sheriff's Department, Prosecutor's Office, who's ever listening and it's not in our chat that's part of these organizations, you need to release some more information to us. If it's more of the audio, if it's more of the video, whatever you can release to us to help out.
Right. And yes, he's with the Cold Case. It's the Cold Case Institute, right?
Something of that nature.
Yeah.
Coalition. Cold case
Coalition, that's what it is.
Yes. What do we got here?
Frank, that would make a little more sense because they were not found. If they were taken to his house and secured, other people could have been present. I was already aware of the hose and pump.
There you go. What? No, we're not blocking nobody. Nobody is to be blocked unless they get out of hand. And some of our moderators in here know the rules. No one's to block anybody unless they go through me and Marv.
And Jim, Polly is one of our moderators.
Yes. But, I mean, I'm reading this. Raggedy Susan says, I don't think Ron Logan knew anything. Somebody explained to me why his GPS locations are within yards of the girls' bodies between 8 and 10:15 that night. Why was his GPS coordinates at the trails at 2:09? Somebody needs to explain that to me. And I don't want to hear this that somebody took his phone, because this day and age, I don't know anybody that would allow somebody else to take their phone and run off with it.
For that long.
Exactly. Now, everybody knows. I mean, I'm not saying, like I said again, I'm not saying Ron Logan did it because I don't know. But everybody knows how hateful that man was. I mean, he would pull guns on people on his property if they were trespassing.
Freckled Joy, what conversation are you referring to? CJK says, I don't think law enforcement wants anyone's help, or they'd hold a new press conference, in my opinion.
They made a more bigger deal out of the CSAM case than they are the Delphi case right now.
Yeah. JW28 says, if it was Ron Logan this whole time, there's going to be a lot of questions as to why it took 5+ years. You got that right.
Yep. I mean, it's no different than somebody that's being incarcerated for 20 to 30 years for murder and they get exonerated 30 years later after they find out, oh, damn, we prosecuted the wrong guy. It's no different.
Okay, Ossie, what potential connections from Ron Logan to TK? Yes, he did do a great job in investigating the Crystal Turner and Kylan Schulte case. I mean, that right there tells you the background that this man has. That was a high-profile case after the Gabby Petito case. They don't just bring in anyone to look at those cases. Wouldn't Ellie close the investigation if R was the killer? Not if they didn't want to name him the killer. Digital, I have not heard that he was on video eating at Pizza King.
He was on video. Well, there's confirmation.
He was on video for the sanitation site, but not for Pizza King that I know of.
But there is evidence that he was in Lafayette at the aquarium. We know that because he admitted to that. But there's also been word that he was also in Lafayette eating and drinking alcohol.
Right, but there's been no mention of a video of him eating or drinking at Pizza King. That's false, CJK. It's so much more advanced now, it's not even funny. The distance being outside is like 14 feet.
Yep.
It's actually very close and accurate.
It's pretty accurate. I mean, if you guys ever watch Hoosier Cold Case, he did a video yesterday or the day before explaining on how cell tower triangulation works. You guys need to go back and watch that. It'll show you do not have to have cell towers to triangulate a GPS location. They use satellites for that.
Or a mixture of the two.
Right.
Freckle Joy, when he told Fouts that he didn't expect two girls would show up dead on his land in court.
Fouts, well, the judge, he was a judge at the time.
And I think Jason makes a good point, you guys. What is the best way to make yourself look innocent? By doing a crime and putting the victims on your own land. Nobody would think that anybody would ever do that. But that's actually one of the best moves they could make. Theoretically.
But I honestly still believe the answer to all this is in Libby's phone. That's just my opinion. That is my opinion. We need to know who she was in contact with prior to them going to the trails. Hell, we need to know who she was in contact with prior the night before, because according to the family, the girls basically stayed up all night long. Who were they on the phone with? Who did Abby make arrangements to meet at the bridge at 8 a.m.? Who was that person? It's supposedly the Anthony Shots account, but we do not know for sure that it was Keegan who had control of that account at the time. But like I'm going to tell everybody else, like I've been telling some other people, Keegan Klein knows exactly who had control of his Anthony Shots account. If he's the creator, he's getting notifications to himself that he got a message through the Anthony Shots account. And if he knew that somebody else was using it, he would have figured it out. See, this is what we were talking about right here. The 209. The photo of Abby at 207 was uploaded to Snapchat at 207. That doesn't mean the photo was taken at 207. It could have been taken 15, 20 minutes prior and then uploaded at 207. So if you look at it that way, the photo hadn't been uploaded and BG was already on the bridge. He was already on the bridge after Abby took Libby took the photo. That's the way I'm looking at it right now.
All right.
What are we looking at here? Search warrant, or is this the KK?
No, this is the search warrant. An analysis of Logan's cell phone data revealed text message received by his phone at 10:16 p.m. Okay, I'm going to go back some.
It should be line 20-something for the 209 call.
A call placed using Logan's cell phone produced cell tower data that shows Logan's cell phone appears to be in or around his property on February 13th, 2017 at 2:09 p.m.
And if you guys go back to the live that we did,
but hang on, it says although his exact location cannot be confirmed, the tower data shows that Logan's cell phone was in the Delphi area, in the area of the Monon High Bridge Trail.
See, that's where I was getting at. When we did the thing on Ron Logan's cell phone, what was it, a couple of months ago? We pulled up Google Map and we took the coordinates that was given to us off this warrant and put it into Google Earth, and that 209 call is placed right at the trail. If you guys go back and watch that live that we did on the GPS coordinates for Ron Logan. I mean, it's a little far-fetched that somebody would have taken his phone and then returned it back to the house and then go back to the crime scene between 8 and 10 p.m. That's a little far-fetched, guys. That's just telling me that he has some knowledge of the crime himself. Sorry, that's the way I feel about it right now until there's something else that shows that Keegan Klein is actually tied into these murders. Once again, there is no evidence, nothing's been released to show that Keegan was even in Delphi that day.
let's see here.
Wait, what are you doing, bud? You laying down?
Yes, I agree, Digital. We need to know what happened with her phone and on her phone.
And then you got the search warrant is placing the girls at the mayor's lot at 1 o'clock. I think that might have been a mistake or a typo on the investigator's part when she typed up the affidavit. It clearly shows in the warrant 1 o'clock. And I even sent a message to Becky to confirm the time, and she never got back to me. Yes, she met at the Anthony Shots through one of her girlfriends. Yes, you're correct, KB, Angela.
All right, Frank, you're going to have to skim through the comments because I can barely read them right now.
Where are you at?
I
even
don't
know. Let's see. There we go. Let's go here. Let's see. Did Ellie thoroughly investigate Ron Logan's alibi to account for his time during the murder? If so, where was his opportunity to be BG? No one said he's BG. We're not saying he's BG. We're not saying he's the killer, but we are saying there's a possibility that he is tied into this case somehow just by his cell phone activity. Like we said before, we don't have a definite POI because of all the names that have been dropped in this case. You can't focus on just one person. That's why we don't have a definite POI. But from the information that's been put out by the murder sheet and the transcripts and the search warrant, everything's pointing at either Keegan Klein or Ron Logan, one of the two. Now we just got to find the common ground in between them, if there's any common ground in between them. Now the point now is that we got to start do the process of elimination. Find out where Keegan was, if we can get information on GPS locations or anything like that. As if you noticed, they haven't released any of that information on Keegan, where his phone location was, if they didn't give us a GPS location or anything. They're making assumptions of Keegan because of the Anthony Shots account. I see. What entrance? Are you talking about the trailhead or from the 501 or the 505? Because if you're going up the 501, it's like 800 and some feet from the 501 to the bridge itself.
If you go from the memorial to the bridge with just a general walk, nothing real fast, nothing real slow. I think we timed it and it was
At a moderate.
4 minutes and something.
Yeah. It's like 800 feet that we had to walk. So, and I'm going to go out to, when I go up to Delphi in October, this has been going around. A couple other creators have talked about it. What about a possible trail leading from Riley Park to the south end of the bridge over the private drive? Well, I'm hoping when I get up there that I can go and look and see if there's a possible trail that could lead from Riley Park on the south side of the bridge leading up to the private drive. So I'm going to do that myself. We had another guy that works with Sleep a Lot, Bill. He attempted to do it here a couple days ago. So I'm going to make an attempt myself. Jason's still watching us. I can see him. He's sitting there watching us. Hey, Jason, we see you, buddy.
We can bring him back on. He's bored.
He's sitting there waving at us. You can come back up, bud, if you want. But like I said, guys, you guys got to keep an open mind when it comes to this case. You can't be what's the word I'm looking for?
Closed-minded.
Closed-minded, track-minded, whatever you want to use. You can't do that.
No, because in the end, it could be that we're all wrong and it's somebody that nobody's ever named.
Well, Don, when I was talking to Keegan a couple months ago and I brought up Ron Logan to him, and he said he didn't even know who he was. And I've even posted all the chirps between me and Keegan on our page. And he clearly states, I don't know who Ron Logan is. So if that's true, we don't know. But,
Right.
you know, once again, there's always been the rumor, speculation that Tony has some type of connection with Ron Logan when it came to his property for hunting and fishing. That hasn't been verified. Nobody knows the truth on that either. And I understand where Jason's coming from. You're throwing people under the bus to possibly try to cover another person's crime. I totally agree with that. This could be that possibility.
But it still comes back to why did his phone ping on the Monon High Bridge Trail and then twice at the site where the girls were found?
Correct. That's the big question. I mean, I could see one thing, him being notified that two girls are missing, and he comes out in the middle of the night to see who's all out there searching his property or whatever, and he comes across the body and starts flipping out, but it doesn't give a reason why he was trying to make sure he had an alibi at 9:30 the next morning.
Right. And why did he stay out there for 2 hours?
Exactly.
I would have ran the other way and hid.
Oh, I'd have been calling law enforcement immediately
Yeah, exactly.
if I'd came up on bodies like that, if that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like I said, you guys need to go back and watch that video we did, or that live we did when we pulled up Google Maps of his GPS locations. The locations of the GPS between 8 and 10:15 p.m. are within yards of where the girl's GPS location was. And that was awful disturbing and awful suspicious to me.
That's in the arrest affidavit.
No, that's the search warrant.
Or I mean the search warrant, yeah. A call placed using Logan's cell phone produced cell tower data that shows Logan's cell phone appears to be in or around his property on February 13th, 2017 at 2:09 p.m. Although his exact location cannot be confirmed, the tower data shows that Logan's cell phone was in the Delphi area, in the area of the Monon High Bridge Trail. Now, we've all seen maps of the area, there's some distance between the trail and Ron Logan's house. So it's not like he was in his yard and just happened to be pinging off of the trail. No.
The crime scene to Ron Logan's house was approximately 1,400 feet. A little over 4 football fields. A little under 5 football fields, I should say.
And then from where the girls were found to the trail, to the bridge,
was like 900 feet.
I think a little bit more than that.
See, Joe, that's what I'm talking about. All these names are getting thrown in the mix here, and that's why we don't have a POI. All these names are being thrown in here, and there's a good reason for that. Here we go. Jason just made a comment.
Oh. My dad, Keegan Klein, didn't know Libby.
So, but there you go, Grizz. I was right. 900 yards.
No, he said 900 yards, question mark?
Oh, from the location of where the girls were found to the bridge. Knowing Libby and chatting with her is two different things, Olivia. Now, this right here, DD, I would have to almost disagree with that. I would almost have to disagree with that, because he even admitted that he even went to a football game in Delphi at one point in time, but he said he didn't know where Delphi was. So, got to keep an open mind, everybody. Keep an open mind. Anything's possible in this case. With the evidence that has been put out there and documentation that's put out there, there is two people that have been focused on, Ron Logan and Keegan Klein. You guys got to remember that. But the only evidence showing with Ron Logan is his GPS locations, and that's damning evidence. And I don't see an FBI agent who's went to college, went to the academy, jeopardizing her career on lying on a probable cause affidavit. Yeah, they might put words in there to sweeten it up for the judge to get them to sign off on a warrant, whatever. Yeah, that happens all the time. But like I said, I don't see a seasoned FBI agent putting her career on the line to lie. I don't see it. Yeah, you've got your bad cops here and there. I mean, think about the FBI agent who was in charge with the Larry Nassar case. Now, that's a bad one, yeah. Of course, you're going to have one, two, three here and there, but not all of them are like that. I just don't see, like I said, her fabricating an affidavit to get a warrant. I don't see it. So, yeah, she made mistakes, I believe, in the affidavit, like the 1 o'clock thing, the girls arriving at the Mears lot at that time. I think that was an honest mistake on her part. Yes, I do. But then for her to say that the photo or the description they got from BG strictly came from Libby's phone, and then where the hell did these sketches come from?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you even got Doug Carter admitting on numerous occasions no one saw BG. Does that mean before or after? Because he never clarified that. And if there was people at the Freedom Bridge, they would have saw something. Somebody, I mean, me and you were there, Marv. We're standing on the bridge. You can see the CPS building. If you see somebody walking, you're going to notice it. We were there in March, this past March. No foliage on the trees or anything. You're going to be able to see people walking through those woods. If you got an eagle eye. If you got an eagle eye.
If you're just lollygagging around, you're not going to see them.
Right.
But if you're actually looking in the woods, you're going to see the movement.
Exactly. So, well, we're at an hour and a half, guys, and I know Marv's got a massive migraine, and she didn't really want to have her camera on. She wanted to just turn the lights off.
Oh, I got the lights off. That's why I have half a head.
But we will be back on Thursday. We will be covering the Maya Robertson case. We got family members coming up on our panel Thursday. Make sure you guys come and check it out. Cece Hatton, I talked to her yesterday, and she is going to give us the lowdown on everything that's taking place right now concerning the mother and the ex-boyfriend when it comes to their court hearings and things of that nature. So we hope to see everybody there. And once again, Mr. Jensen, we really appreciate you coming on tonight. We can still see you watching us. And I'm sure there's going to be another day or another time that I'm going to be in contact with you so we can discuss more on this case, sir. So just stand by and we'll get in contact with you again. As for everybody here in the chat, we love you. We appreciate everybody coming out, joining on us on Thursday night at 8 p.m., the Amaya Robertson case. And you know our slogan, peace out, one love, y'all. Good night, guys. Good night, Jason.